I thank you very much on behalf of Potentia for accepting our invitation to be here this afternoon. The teams are ready to go. The motion before us is, as the faculty cringe, higher education in crisis, institutions of higher learning have failed miserably in preparing students for success in the real world. Please note that this is not a position that Potentia holds. According to our marketing dude.
Capture that, Shane.
Canvas. You will have to defend it. Canvas through wide consultation and considered worthy of exciting and interesting debate, and fully supported by Victoria University's Computer Science Department, by the way. Presenting the case for the proposition is Nicole Francis, the head of People and Culture at the Flexi Group, together with the co-founder of fintech startup KiwiPass, Andrew Michalski. Rebutting the case for the opposition is Jason Walker, our director at consulting firm EQ3, he'll tell us all about it shortly, together with Gladys Lai, a master's student at Auckland University of Technology, currently also working at Technology Investment Network. They will present their cases for 5 minutes each, followed by an audience interaction, and 5 minutes each for rebuttals following. Following another audience interaction, they will finish with a 3-minute closure for each team. The winner will be determined by a Slido. If you haven't registered, please do so, #22407. And you are encouraged to provide questions via Twitter as well, at #Tautohe Potentia. Once we do that, could you please, I encourage you to be, if you already have a Twitter account, take a photo right now and tweet that with the hashtag, because we need to make sure that we have got the interaction here and we will be polling accordingly.
Ab will follow you, by the way.
So let's get the show on the road. Folks, let us introduce for the proposition, Nicole Francis.
Hi, everyone. Okay, I'm starting. If you can't hear me, let me know. There is no doubt that tertiary education has evolved over the last decade, but it's nowhere near good enough at equipping students with the skills that they need to thrive in the real world. Since the beginning of the internet, through the adoption of mobile phones and social media, we've created a world that is constantly connected. Our terrible mental health figures, particularly our suicide rates, are perhaps the most profound example of how we are badly prepared to handle the pressure of this modern world that we live in. As part of the generation that has experienced life and work before and after the advent of social media platforms like TikTok and Facebook and Snapchat and Twitter, I can't hide my frustration at the lack of urgency around helping our future generations, our children, to thrive within this changing world. Education providers at every level exist to prepare and shape future generations. It is their duty to recognize that this purpose involves more than giving people hard technical skills. They must deliver the soft skills that will enable people to thrive and influence change within society. More than ever, we need these providers to incorporate techniques from managing stress, problem solving, building confidence, and adapting to change so that we can have armies of graduates with emotional intelligence, compassion, and innovation embedded alongside those technical skills, not just bolted on later when it may be too late. These are not wishy-washy, nice to have skills. These are necessities for everyone that are teachers, doctors, writers, entrepreneurs. As this year in particular has really shown us, with the move from such a predictable world where we could control and plan things, you could know when you were going to see your parents, you know when you might be going overseas, or even down to the library to do some study, to a very unpredictable one now, where we are constantly scanning the present, asking what ifs, and we're having to constantly experiment. Now more than ever, these skills are needed. I've worked in a range of industries, FMCG, manufacturing, public health, finance, and they have one thing in common, and that is the way people work is constantly changing. We're adapting agile techniques to deliver projects within weeks, not months or years now. We're working globally. We're embracing new digital tools and communication techniques constantly, and we're too busy to invest in continuous learning. Higher learning is a privilege. It is a time of self-discovery and the perfect time to foster innovation and to link learning to that real world. I do have a couple of points to make. Number one, it takes too long and it costs too much to get a qualification. There is certainly room to condense learning and build in opportunities for students to develop those soft skills that I've mentioned, where they can thrive in the real world. And again, particularly in this year, I have seen this as an HR professional and all the change we've been through and the resilience of our graduates coming through on that and the changes that we've had. Number two, hard skills can only get you so far. Diligence in class and great assignment scores are well and good. But if you don't have exposure to agile ways of working, communication, innovation thinking, and resilience, it's going to be an uphill battle as soon as you leave that lecture theatre. What we do today is not what we will be doing tomorrow. Number three, the way we work has evolved, but learning hasn't. Workplaces are rapidly changing. Great example again this year. How many of us were used to being in our offices and then suddenly we're at home, right? How many organizations had to flick the switch on that as quickly as they could? Right, COVID has really accelerated how we work and we've come out the other end of that and it's moving quickly. Number four, there is no substitute for real life training. Some places work hard to develop space that provides health students, for example, with real life hands-on experience using modern equipment so they can walk out of their qualifications into work. But what about the skills they need to build or manage a business? For networking to build your brand, resilience and coping with stress, agile working styles and problem solving. What is the real world application of these essential skills? I want to conclude by saying tertiary education is critical for this country. We need deep thinkers, academics, artists, and everyone in between. But we also need to consider the role that our higher learning institute play in preparing people for the future of work and how they can better round out the emotional and creative talent of students so they not only can survive in a job, but also thrive within it. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Nicole. 5 minutes is really fast.
It's really fast. When
Yeah.
Ashley told me on the side, I was like, oh my God.
Hey, in the support of against the motion, the infamous Jason Walker. Yes.
Oh, this is my first debate. I said to my wife, I can't debate. She says, you like arguing? I says, no, I don't. So, we're the opposition to the proposition. Institutions of higher learning have failed miserably in preparing students for success in the real world. Gladys, three degrees over 5 years in economics, marketing, operations and technology, 2 certificates in leadership and supply chain, currently completing her master's, is overqualified, but we'll talk through the logic, the evidence and the reason to prove why the proposition makes no factual sense. I will use guile, wisdom and experience to prove why the proposition makes no common sense. So together, no factual sense and no common sense, we will prove that higher education from higher learning institutions is critical to preparing students for success in the real world. And I'm going to start with a knockout punch, right? A Taylor Francis online survey in the US, a study of 11,745 individuals found that 94% of CEOs, judges, politicians, millionaires, billionaires, business leaders all attended colleges, and 50% of those graduated from elite schools. Now, you're all clever people here, do your math. That means only 6% were a minority without a college education. Now, I assume that if you did that same survey across New Zealand, you would find similar figures. Now, if you don't judge financial success as the model for your success, think about health and think about family and think about fun. Graduates live longer. It's true. Diverse, the Centre of Retirement Research in Boston College, found that there was a significant difference in mortality based on educational attainment. So that if you get educated, you are happier, you earn more, you can afford better healthcare, better lifestyle, better living conditions, and less physical stress in the workplace. It's proven, it's a fact. So not only can you have financial success, but you can also have health and physical success. So does higher education prepare you for success? Absolutely. Does it guarantee you success? Not at all. And it's not for the higher institutions to guarantee you success. It's to set up the foundation for you to create whatever success that you want to build for yourself. If you think about it, if you think about builders constructing a new plot, they will tell you the most important part of that construction is setting the foundations. Without a strong set of foundations, that building will fall apart. And the same goes for education, and the same goes for careers. So think about education as a key to unlocking a number of different doors, right? And you walk through that door to whatever potential awaits for you. Now, if you do not have that education, there are a few doors you can walk through. And the only doors you can walk through, you have to maximize your potential through those doors. So sometimes when you come through higher education, you have so many doors and so many possibilities. The difficulty is, which one do you choose? Which one do you want to walk through? And I look at it as if education and higher education is like you want to go to the greatest party you've ever been to, right? You look through the windows and you see everyone enjoying yourself. They're attractive, they're enjoying themselves, they're drinking, they're having fun, they're dancing. And so you get in a long line. You get in this massive queue. You see all these people going in this queue. They're walking by and there's a couple of massive bouncers at the door and they're saying to everyone, look, is your name on the list? Yep, I'll let you through. Now you get to the top of the queue and you say your name, Jason Walker, and they go, sorry, your name's not on the list. And you go, but I'm just as good as anyone else. I can get through that door. So sorry, your name's on the list. Because you haven't created your own invitation. And how you would have done that is to go on to higher education. Now, just because your name is on the list and I've now gotten through the door, doesn't mean that everyone's going to love my dance moves, although I'm not a bad break dancer, right? And just because I've got great dance moves, it doesn't mean they're going to like my pickup lines. And just because they like my pickup lines doesn't mean I'm going to close the deal. Because once you're through that door, it's up to you. It's up to you to make the most of your potential. So, institutions of higher learning have failed miserably in preparing students? No. They've given you the invitation to get your name on that list. So you can walk through whatever door you want to work for and create those opportunities for yourself. Thank you very much.
So, hey, rebutting honor for the affirmative gain, Andrew Mikowski.
So I'm a recent graduate from a university in University of Wisconsin-Madison in the United States. If you couldn't tell from my accent, sorry. I'll talk a little bit louder. So one point I really want to hit on that the opposition hit on quite hard is the fact that you're more successful if you go to university, and that it's just a fact. But something that they overlooked there in this elitist society that they've enveloped upon is the fact that the people who are going to these elite universities, the ones who are these judges, lawyers, and doctors, have been in generations of wealth for over 2 to 3 generations alone. Now, again, if we look at income disparity and we're looking at people who are living in poverty, it takes 2 generations for you to get out of poverty. 2. So somebody like myself who's gone to university, and I'm starting to work through and I'm networking and I'm creating my own life, right? But if I were somebody who'd just gotten out of poverty, just got to university, and I just got all these loans, meanwhile, may I remind you, the average loan and the average debt that you're facing is over $200,000 for using US stats, because I think that they did. $200,000, it's the cost of a house in the US. It's a cost of a car too, I know. How is somebody who's coming out of university, who's making on average $60,000 a year, able to pay that off in due time, over 40 years, over 50 years, trapped in debt over and over again? Then they have to buy a house, they have a family, they have their own children to worry about too. It's a cycle of debt. Another point that they again touched on was the quality of health, both mental and physical health. I think something we're not also looking at here is the cost of health insurance, both private and public. For somebody to go to school and live a happier life and live a stress-free life is almost impossible to say. You're looking at, in New Zealand alone, one of the highest suicide rates in the world, right, per capita. And it shows through students and through COVID that we've seen stress and social distancing, right, and the lack thereof, social appetite, right. People aren't able to go out, if we're going to logic this, right? They're not able to communicate with their friends, their families, the people that they're normally with. So for us to say that, yes, you're automatically guaranteed this, you're negating all the costs that are associated with that too. On top of the debt, it's almost impossible to really consider that. And diving on that too, yes, I will concede, the university totally provides one of the best foundations. And it is up to the student how they want to use that foundation, how they want to grow off of it, right? How they want to build their network, like I said before. But how is the university actually implementing that? Why are we here today? Why are we at Potentia? Why are we all here? This isn't run by the university. This is run by these guys, right? They put this event on for people to network. If they didn't see a problem in society as it is, we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be thriving, right? 4,000 people follow this LinkedIn page. 4,000 people. You know how many people interact with it on a monthly basis? 3,000, 4,000 per post. 92. 92 people for this company alone, right? This company has outreach. We're in a country of like 5 million people, 4.7 million, sorry. 1.7 million in Auckland alone, and they have 2 offices, and they're expanding and they're growing. Not to mention all the connections that they're making. You cannot deny that he's one of the biggest recruiters too. I found him on LinkedIn. But that came up to me. I was a foreigner and I wanted to build my network that was totally intrinsic. It wasn't forced upon me. You couldn't say that my university, ironically, we went to the same university, weird. But you couldn't say my university set me up with Potentia. It was truly intrinsic, and you can't expect every student to do that. Then you go back to the whole nature versus nurture, right? If I'm bringing up a kid, who's to say if the kid's amazing, do I get all the credit? Or is it the kid who just had this motivation to just want to do better, to want to improve? So something I'd like to just, I guess, finish upon is that you can't look at education as this concrete way of being successful. It is still up to the individual. People are themselves. People are unique. And that's what's beautiful about it. You can be successful, but if you want to be, and if you have the tools and resources to make yourself successful.
All right. Hi, everyone. This is Gladys. So I'm happen to go to the same school as Andrew, UW-Madison. So because of the fact that we study in the US, I did some research about the difference between US and New Zealand education. So I will mention it in my debate. But first of all, to answer about his point about being successful, a lot of reason is because of our family. We probably didn't live in a very rich family. We didn't have the opportunity to go to school. But back to the debate topic, we are focused in universities. What have universities done to actually make us successful? And we do believe that universities have done their best to prepare us for success. So my first point about how have university been preparing us for success for soft skills? I do need to give some examples using either my example in the US or examples in New Zealand. So how have university prepared us for dealing with stress, let's say for this? There is a difference between US academic grades percentage, like we probably only put 20 to 30% on finals grade, but in New Zealand it's 70%. Even though the two are very different, you can see that the university in New Zealand actually put a lot of stress for students. You need to rely so much on yourself to study, and then you have to actually, get the finals right. Same in the US, it's very stressful as well because grade is sometimes curved. Your grade is dependent on the best performer in your class, and directly everyone's like, you're my competitor. I don't talk to you. Everyone feel that kind of stress. in the university. And, university have provided that background for us to treat with it. And it's up to us how we do with it. Second of all, how have university done? They have prepared us with a lot of career workshop. A lot of workshop from my university, they talk about how to link in, how do you write your resume, how do you write a CV, all those important skills that you need to have in order to go to work. They have done all those. Similarly, most important thing I want to argue against is like the university provide us the environment through university student organizations. This is the thing, this is the kind of natural habitat, the community that Ashley was talking about, that help us to build the friendship that we want in our life. Imagine a lot of us who are coming here alone. There are a lot of us, a lot of them are your friends. Probably right now you're just university friends, but you will imagine, you will see yourself in probably 10 or 20 years, they are still your friends. And how do you meet them? You meet them from university. You meet them from an event that's from your university club, about Potentia, and then you come to this event, and right now you're here listening to me, and we can be friends forever. You never know. So yeah, these are the things that university has set ourselves up to, and then connect us to the actual employers. Let's say University of Auckland, they actually have management consulting group. They work with Deloitte. They actually have actual real cases from companies to prepare students for those projects, and they're actually working on the projects. They're not just working academic or theories. Same for Impact Consulting Group. They're also working on not-for-profit projects actually in Auckland right now. They're not doing it, they're not actually just let you just study and then, go home, They actually prepare us for all these opportunities, and it's up to us whether we grab them or not. Last but not least, competition. There are actually a lot of company competition that collaborate with the universities. If the employers, they don't trust this university, they're not going to work with you. The recent competition I got involved with was MYOB. I was so lucky that I actually got involved with. I actually compete against Australian university students. Those are what we were competing against. We were trying to build an app for small startups in New Zealand and Australia. How can we let them survive in this economy? How can we make them transit into the digital world? So all of those things are out there preparing for us to success, and it's up to us whether we are taking those opportunities. Last but not least, I want to mention that university is a platform for us to actually let us explore our interests, have the freedom to fail in different organizations, different opportunities without being fired. If imagine you fail in your job, you probably just get fired. But but in the university,
yeah, HR knows something about that.
Right, but yeah, when we are in the university, we can try out different things. We can make friends. We can, for me, when I started with university with sociology major, but you have no idea after trying out different things, I realized, I actually like marketing. And then eventually, learn more. And then I learned, actually I like more stuff. And then, yeah, university provide all this for me. And another thing was leadership certificate. I believe a lot of university provide that as well. So those are the, opportunities they provide to set us up for success. And yes, that's my point.
The final phase of this is the closures, and closing for the affirmative is Andrew. Exactly 3 minutes of closure, please.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So a few points that we really just want to briefly touch on before we wrap it up here. I think something that a lot of people neglect a lot of times when they're looking at universities is they really neglect the barriers to entry. And it's difficult for a lot of people to get in, not only because of costs, social constructs, family, mental health, but the lack of resources to get there. There's not necessarily one clear path to get to university. Everybody's got their own unique journey, their own unique story. And solidifying a way for people to get there, it's really difficult, and it's hard to just put yourself in the shoes and just say, do it. Everybody's different and everybody's unique. And that's something I really want some people to just take away from this. Another question I really want to pose to you guys is that if we're paying so much money to go to school, $8,000, $40,000 a year, why won't they teach us how to use these soft social skills? Why can't they? I understand the foundation aspect of it, great. But if I'm paying this much money, enough to buy a new car, I remind you, every single year, on that school, plus living expenses. And I can't even cover that to have a part-time job and go to school and study and have good mental health, work out, hang out with my friends every once in a while. Why can't they teach me that? Why can't they put in just a little bit more effort, excuse me, to just bring me there? I just want some path. Like I said, I want guidance, right? I think I can speak for most of us. And lastly, solidifying away, bringing around critical thinking in those critical aspects, and ask yourself as well, why are we here? Who paid for the pizza? Who invited you here? Where did you find this event? I mean, these are real questions. We're all here right now. You can seriously sit there and ask yourself that. Without events like these, without networking, without kind of forcing yourself to get out there, you wouldn't do anything, would you? Like you'd be sitting there, you'd be looking at your university coursework, and you're like, great, calculus 3, got it. Fundamental theory of calculus, right? I know those things, right? But how can I apply them? Can somebody give me an example of how I can actually apply them? Bring me out into the community. Why don't companies reach out to universities anymore the way they used to? Why don't we integrate society into education? Why does education have to be so dissident from society? Why can't it be unilateral? And I think we can truthfully bring it to that. I guess it's just a matter of time before we can then bridge the gap between universities and society as a whole. I'm 10 seconds out, I'm sorry.
So the final speaker in closure, we get Jason to complete.
Thanks, cheers. Abby, poverty and mental health, they are barriers to entry to higher education, but it's irresponsible to put that responsibility onto higher education. They're not responsible for that. They are barriers. Guy, we were the first ones we hired Guy. What I looked at, I've hired hundreds of people and trained hundreds of people. Guy was one of our first employers in the recruitment world, and I've worked with clients who've hired thousands of people. Degree and experience trumps experience alone. That's the first thing I would tell you. In all the clients that we deal with and all the businesses and even our own business. Now, you might not like the game. I don't like the game. The game is this, that if you have a degree, you have a greater opportunity for success. But if you need to play it, you've got to be in it. You have to be in it if you want to win it. Māori and Pacifica, I'm Māori. To get to the table, to have the conversation, to make change and to make real change, you have to get a degree. They worked it out. They provide a lot of support and sponsorships to get all the whānau and all the iwi to get degrees so that they have an opportunity to have a voice at the table because they know that makes a difference. Soft skills. Soft skills are a result of feedback and disclosure. You don't know what you don't know. And if you want to develop soft skills, you have to do that in the real world. And that comes from making right decisions. And you make right decisions from experience, and you get experience from making the wrong decisions. And that's what teaches you emotional intelligence. That teaches you empathy, and that teaches you how to connect. To do that in a surreal environment in the university, to get them to prepare for that is unreasonable and irrational to expect. Governance. So governments are providing subsidies to trades, to hire tradespeople. Why are they not providing subsidies to hire graduates? Who's spoken to an MP and say, why don't you give us a subsidy to take on a new graduate so we can teach them these soft skills? That hasn't happened. They take on tradespeople and they provide them with $16,000 a year. Now, if they did that for graduates, imagine how quickly you could repay your loans. They'd get the money back, they'd get feedback, you develop those skills. Phil, all successful people have been primary school students. Not all primary school students have been successful. Just wanted to rebut you on that one. And now let's get down from the intellectual down to the visceral. Now, I didn't graduate university. I do not have a higher education. I ran out of money. Phil and I come from backtracks, trash, and whakatane, right, Phil? You can account for that. So I left university in 1990 because I couldn't afford the fees. And I went for a job at Merck Sharp and Doane. I remember this as a salesperson. They said, Jason, we love you. You've got the soft skills. They said, sell me a pen. I sold them a pen. I was waiting and I was thinking, I'm going to be successful. They rang me up and said, you don't have the job. I said, why not? They said, because you don't have a degree. I'm not too proud to say that I was in tears that night. And the only opportunities available to me was sales. And that's where I learned to tell stories. So thank you very much.
I know you guys are all voting on Slido. If you haven't, please get your votes in. And while we're getting the votes in, I'll get Matt to conclude by the
Right, so I get pushed up to announce the winner before your winner's actually been decided, so that's great. But thank you all so much for coming tonight. It's clearly been a robust debate with strong opinions on both sides, and it is an ongoing discussion. There'll be many positions and viewpoints that haven't had a chance to be discussed today. So obviously we've got some time after this to continue the discussion over some drinks and hopefully there's some more food over there. And looking at these results that I'm now seeing here, it looks like Jason and Gladys with the negative have taken the
It's live. It changes.
It's still going.
Yeah.
What about postal votes?
You can
There you go. So you can put that in snail mail.
Deadline 7 p.m.
Yesterday.
You
Still going. We'll just get everybody to finish and we'll see where we end up.
can change your vote as well.
You can change your vote as well.
You can't do
Have
that.
you voted yet? We haven't seen your vote. Wi-Fi or something.
Bro, you know how long it's going to get the Wi-Fi password?
No data.
Graduate here.
Have you voted?
Took me
Whoa,
to
it's
get
getting
the
slow.
Wi-Fi password.
I think somebody re-voted.
I had to like, I had to reverse engineer on my laptop to be into my laptop. I think it's off my laptop. The wrong way. Put it in my phone.
Yeah.
It's slide out of.
What's the
What's the
code?
website?
You just add 2 votes each. One on each side.
It's really
Looks like
close.
it'll be too
I think
close
we're
to
close.
What's the code? Yeah, down the bottom. What's the code? Down the bottom.
Down the top.
22407. We'll give it 2 more minutes and we'll close the voting.
And 1 vote swing really big in this election.
I know.
Pennsylvania. Wait, oh. Oh.
60 seconds will close.
And you'll sing it tonight.
Come on, Uni. Faculty is not voting. You can vote again.
I guess.
Okay.
We just voted even before.
20 seconds and we'll be done. Yep. Anybody hasn't voted yet? Anybody's in the process of voting? No more. Okay, so this is it, guys. We stay true to this. Hey, can I say in conclusion, thank you so much. When the dust is settled and the sun rises tomorrow, the world is still going to be alive.
You sound like Thanos right now.
As you were. Faculty will still turn up in the ivory towers and try to persuade us that they belong in the world of tomorrow. And industry will look up at them and say, if only you could. The reality is, Jill, I'm not talking to you. The reality is the world, the message you heard today, and I hope the takeaway for you guys is very clear. And I think, Joe, you captured it really well. And I think, Robert, you reiterated that. It is not incumbent only on the institutions of higher education to address all of these problems. It is about industry, it's about all of us. And if only we take away one thing from here tonight, and that I ask of you is to ask yourself the personal question, what can I do? Because I can control what I can do. I can't control what they can do or what industry can do. I can control what I can do. And it is incumbent on all of us here today to go out there and proselytize, go and talk, go and influence, and go and inculcate with networks that we operate in, that talks about a tomorrow that can be really bright. And for New Zealand and Aotearoa, that can be world leading on the basis of the fact that together we can make change happen. And like the words of a president 12 years ago, #yes, we can. And I say, yes, we must. because this is our moment. This is our time. Let's go out there and kick some massive asses and make change happen, because small Aotearoa has an ability to have an amplified position in the world, and it is incumbent for all of us to make sure we do that together. For one reason and one reason only. Yes, we can. So here, let us in unison recognize these guys.